Cool. All right. So now I've got the privacy message, and so we're all good. So thanks everybody for coming. We really appreciate it. Thanks for being here. Kind of a overview, sort of how we got to here, I guess. Peter and I were sort of talking after doing some training and talking potentially to a partner that didn't work out about admin training for customers. And as we kind of went through it, we thought, most clients with a Salesforce instance with, 10, 15, 20 users needs at least a part-time Salesforce admin, because stuff is constantly kind of happening, changes to page layouts or changes to fields or reports and dashboards, which isn't even purely an admin function, are things that are constantly sort of evolving at customers. And so getting somebody kind of to understand that is a good tool. One of the ways that you can do that, and a good way, frankly, is to get a resource certified through Salesforce. So Salesforce obviously has certified administrator courses that they teach. And at the end of those courses, you're sort of qualified as a certified admin. It's a fairly rigorous class. It's 5 days, plus the study time for the test, plus the prep work to get there. It costs around $5K to do, and it's geared around every admin function that Salesforce has. Stuff like setting up MFA, which you do exactly once, or setting up Einstein Activity Capture, which you do exactly once. Assigning permission sets, which happens as new users come in, but isn't a kind of a constant sort of a thing. All of that is kind of built into the course, and some of it is not, needed all the time. So basically, while it's useful sort of information, it is intensive in terms of time. It can be expensive, and it's sort of geared towards taking the test. So we thought maybe there's a way for the 5 or 6 things that users do every day to kind of jump in and use kind of a pinpointed set of classes to get to those functions. If that makes sense. Peter, you want to jump in?
Yeah, so I think it's you kind of put it the right way. When we look at, because we have a lot of customers that have what we call EODs, which are the blocks of hours that you buy, they come back to us repeatedly for different things, and we're thinking, well, this maybe if we taught you how to do that, one, you'd have a better idea of what Salesforce can do. You'd be able to do more of your own work, and then come back to us for other stuff. But so it seems like a good offering for our existing customers, particularly ones who have blocks of hours, because we'll get to that, how we're going to do it. But so it's just there, and then we're going to do the classes. So it makes sense, I think, to do it that way.
And so we think that we can build out, classes around some of the kind of common functions, right? Stuff like page layouts, which comes up all the time. And there's some complexity to that, right? Classic versus Lightning. You have to kind of do things in both. Using views, views, I think, are a kind of often sort of neglected function in Salesforce that can be super powerful. With Kanban views and with mass editing records, there's some really interesting stuff there. Building, using Object Manager to look at buttons, or look at search layouts, or look at some other stuff. Working with formula fields could be a course by itself, or certainly, a half hour, 45 minutes of just starting to figure it out, because we've got data in the system, everybody does, that we can then take and turn into other data simply by calculating, even across objects, to build stuff together. Of course, as Salesforce goes to flow, I think that's going to become more and more important. We all started with workflows, which were fairly straightforward. Transition to process builders, which were super cool but didn't have a screen component. And now Salesforce is kind of settling in, and honestly, in the next year, is going to force us into using flows to do this work. Well, there's some super heavy sort of cool things you can do as an administrator inside of the flow engine. And maybe you don't go all the way to screens. Maybe you're just using it to update records or add records to the system, but it's still a really cool way to do it. Building out reports and dashboards, Peter just talked about, I talked about. It's a super kind of common and necessary function inside the tool. If we've got all this data, in my opinion, one of the other neglected things that's often done is we don't, take advantage of that. Maybe we could teach somebody at your organization kind of how to do that. And then finally, Data loader, although I don't, you probably don't want to migrate an entire org, which we do for customers. It could be something where you need to update a record that the list view isn't going to let you do. You've got 50,000 records. Well, some simple stuff with data loader can show you how to do some of that work. We won't get all the way to how we join and cross-reference and use external IDs. We'll cover that, but for the most part, we're going to show you how to kind of get data loader loaded and then work through the complexities of sort of putting it together. So we kind of took a lot of that stuff and built it out into 5 courses that you see here. So the idea is, a page layouts kind of class, how those whole things work. Field and object management, particularly around formula fields, roll-up fields, and sort of static fields. Flows and validation rules, right? Some of the other kind of logistical Boolean stuff that we can do inside of Salesforce. Reports and dashboards and data loader. So at least for now, those are kind of the 5 courses that we're thinking about, at least to start. Each course will be taught kind of around lecture, lab, review. Our first idea is everybody sets up a dev sandbox in their org, so they've got a place to do the work. And then we'll show some work. We'll then demonstrate that work, and then we'll ask the students to kind of do that as well. So it's not really just going to be everybody watching us sort of do it, which I think was kind of how we first started this. And I think there's probably a better way to do that, which is everybody's kind of working in their own dev org to kind of to see what changes they need to make. And if you're working in a sandbox in your own org, it's basically got all your fields already there. It's got all your metadata there. It's a super easy way to kind of get that lined up. So the 5 courses kind of broken out. The first one is around page layouts, but I think it's also around search and views. It's kind of how do classic and lightning page layouts interact? How do homepage layouts work? How does the mobile app work with the screen pages and kind of put it together? How the inbox, there's a little panel for inbox, right? Nobody really knows how that works. We can show how kind of those common things sort of come together, how search works, how the opportunity product screen that comes up when you load. It's probably not often talked about, but that search and the fields that show up there are coming from the price book entry search layout. And so we'll show you how to put that together so that those filters on that page start to make more sense. And finally, understanding views, how to set up the views, how to Kanban those views, and particularly important, I think, are cool, is how to mass update records inside of that. Peter, you want to do this one?
No, go ahead. You're doing a great job.
Okay, so for fields and objects, we're looking to do kind of how lookup and master detail relationships line up, how pick lists with global values versus listing independence on fields work, and there's advantages in both, but how that sort of works. The default fields inside of systems, while you can pick a default value, that's not a great idea, but you can default answers in based on other stuff inside the system. So for instance, if a record type for an opportunity is, a purchase order, right, Sharada? We can default in some of the static fields that have to be there. If record type equals X, then the person who's responsible for reviewing the order is Y, and some of that stuff can happen just straight through defaults, can happen through validation rules, or can happen through formula fields. And we kind of want to give you a field for how that kind of comes together. And then I just threw in one of these, although the bullet's off, I don't know what happened, that, with the is pick val in formula fields or the case operator, those are really complicated and heavy kind of functions. We'll show you how to just use the word text in front of those fields to kind of help drive some of that. I think it makes everything so much easier, but if you're not kind of versed in that and you're just going to the community for help, you're going to try to struggle through is pick val, and you're going to be there a while. Of course, 3 around flows and validations. This is the least kind of defined one I've sort of put together so far, but it's, where they exist, what's the use case for each of them as we sort of roll forward. We're going to figure out, working with you, this one's going to be a little more interactive, how workflows sort of are built, how those convert to Process Builder, how Process Builder eventually converts to flow. Salesforce has built a conversion engine for us that's really good, actually, that can kind of convert those flows and those workflows and process builders into flows, and we can kind of help with that. understanding how screen flows work. So this gets kind of into almost Lightning Web Components, right? So you're building your own screens, although some of the rules still apply, 2 columns, many rows. We can build out some functionality for screen design inside of flows as well. So it becomes a really kind of powerful tool that gets you, 2 or 3 steps away from Apex code. Course 4, I think, can be really important. I think a lot of stuff that we do in reports is pretty basic, but we can use filters and the summary fields, or the summary fields at the detail level, or summary fields at the report level, to kind of get some of the data that maybe isn't necessarily at a field level inside of records to sort of appear on reports. We're going to show you how to use the buckets function, which nobody really kind of puts together. And then we're going to take all that, and after we've built a few reports in that dev org, we're going to build out a dashboard pane for those so that we see the particulars of how to kind of set up a graph, how to set up a funnel, how to set up a gas gauge, and how to set up a table, because all of them have different sort of components that you work with to get there. I think it's really interesting stuff, and it can take your reporting engine, which is, I think, A, urgent, B, sort of overlooked. It take you a long way in terms of how the system can kind of help you analyze data that you've already got in the system anyway and put that together. And then finally, data loader. Like I said, we'll load data loader and kind of get the work put together. But the idea to kind of get data loaded into Salesforce, these bullets don't line up too, but I'll fix that later. How the UI works for basic account and contact load, how you can do custom object load right through the setup panel inside of Salesforce, and then how to use Access to kind of take that a step further. We'll also do VLOOKUP. I think most people are more comfortable with Excel. So I'm not, but we've got guys who can kind of help us with that VLOOKUP piece, and I'll show the Access piece to kind of help people get ready, show you how to load the data, show you how the errors sort of work, how to do some error correction inside of the system, how to read sort of the super secret Salesforce language of what those error codes mean, and then fix that data and kind of run it into Salesforce. So at this point, those are the 5 courses we're kind of thinking about. We've built out syllabuses on a couple of them, and we're getting ready to do this. But and there'll probably be more classes after this. But at the beginning, we think these 5 things kind of broadly encompass daily admin tasks. Maybe not everything that an admin needs to do, for sure, but the stuff that you guys are getting requests for as a company, over and over and over again, we can kind of help you get to a better place on that, or we hope we can get you a better place on that. Peter?
Yeah, so we're going to do, the idea is to do these monthly. So we have to make it a 10-hour series if you did all of them. But one of the things that most people on this call, I think, have used in the past, blocks of hours, is you can use your blocks of hours to do this, so that you don't have to do all of them, but I think they probably make sense to do all of them eventually. So as Dan said, we're hoping to start with a couple of these next month, and roll that out. We will limit it to 7 people at a time, because we will have 1 or 2 people from our side on it, to manage it. There's not going to be 30 people on it, so it will be not individual actually, but close to it, so everybody can get some individual attention if they need it as well. So we think that's a good size for the classes, and then we're going to do them, and our idea is just keep doing them continually so that they could be repeated. We can record them if you need to. So that's kind of the idea right now. So if you put that up as like two grand, what we're talking about here, as opposed to $5 grand for the Salesforce stuff, it's a reasonable alternative, and we think that not everybody needs a certified admin. So, but there's certainly a lot that you can learn. So you'll be able to do, kind of take things into your own hands and not have to come to us all the time for that, and then still come back to us for the more complicated stuff.
Right. Okay, so here's a sample of kind of what we've started to put together. So this is on the page layout views, search layout kind of function that we're sort of putting together. And you can see the way that we kind of do it is we want to build it into time sections. So, the big piece is kind of those first pieces that we work through. Classic page layout, kind of how it works, how Classic and Lightning interact. It's sort of a function of, Salesforce 20 years old at this point, kind of doing one thing and then doing another. Spending a lot of time on Lightning page and kind of the overall layout and the components, the way it works. And each of these sections, 5 minutes seems tight, but I think the way that we want to do it is we want to talk about it. We've got some, I'll show you a slide here in a second, sort of describes it. And maybe that takes a minute and a half. And then we want to go to our demo org, show how it works inside of a system, and then spend the last 2 or 3 minutes of each of these sections with you in your dev sandbox doing it yourself. So the idea is in each of these kind of sets, it's moving fast, right? 2 hours, and we're kind of getting through a lot of stuff. But in each one of them, we basically start at the beginning, we show you, and then we ask you to do it yourselves. And there's some ways to do that in Teams, actually, where I can see everybody can share multiple screens, so that it's going to be chaos. We've got 7 people on the screen, but we'll be able to see everybody's screen as we sort of work through it. So we kind of make sure that everybody's keeping up. Tons of topics, but we hope in this kind of speed and the ability to kind of lecture lab review it, that it's going to be really kind of fast paced and everybody's going to get a lot out of it. In terms of the pieces themselves, this is kind of an example of what the screen would look like. So this is just the component to add report charts to a Lightning Web page, right? So report charts are a way to kind of take the data that you've got in the system, get that loaded up someplace to give you a graphical view of the data you've already got. It's great to be able to see the related lists, but in this example, we're sort of taking sales by account by category, you see down here, and then we're basically building it out as an individual account-based report chart to put together. And so we want to kind of build this out and then use tips at the end to kind of make sure that everybody understands what we're doing. And then we'll reinforce those tips as we work through it, right? So a report has to be built at the account level if we want to segregate or filter by a particular account ID. The chart in the report is the chart that's going to show up on your report chart. And then, if you don't write your report for all accounts, if you filter by accounts, you're going to have trouble with this as a report chart. So those are the kind of things that people fall down on. We want to make sure that we've got a way to make sure that people understand how that works, so that when you go off into the real world and do it, you've got a kind of a broad sort of use case and example set that you can fall back on. We have talked for 19 minutes. We thought we were going to talk for 30, so we're 21 minutes short. But any questions? Is there anything we can kind of talk about? Remember, this is brand new to us, so we're looking for feedback too from you guys who are basically out in the trenches. Any questions? Anything you can think of?
Does it? I guess what we're trying to. Does this make sense to people? Does it seem like something we think it is valuable? But so the question is, do you guys think it's valuable or would be valuable?
Yeah, hi, this is Sam Vale from Logic Source. Very valuable. Can you guys send me the deck?
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
This is Melina from Connecticut. My question would be about the fees that you guys said. You said 1 or 2 students per organization, and the price is 19 something something. Let's put it together like 2,000, right? Doesn't really matter. So this 2,000 is for 2 students or per student?
No, in that example, it's for 2 students. So yeah, you and Nancy, for example, could come from, so you guys could both come and kind of do the training, and we count it as 2 hours, basically. Yeah,
per company, really. So
yeah, that's a better way of saying it.
So if Nancy and I are going to sign up for a 10-hour series, we're gonna pay 2,000, right?
That's correct.
Okay, that makes sense. Otherwise, Salesforce will charge less than you guys if that would be 2,000.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, this is Kate from Threadmark. I just had a question. I know that Salesforce kind of offers a like a self-guided Trailblazer Salesforce admin course. Is this similar to that, or
It is, but
How
it's,
does that
we've
work?
got somebody on the phone kind of working through it with you and,
Sure.
watching your screen as you do it. Yeah. So if you're good at that stuff, because that's free, that's a great way to kind of get admin up in terms of the tool. But, there you're sort of, you're self-guided. But yeah, absolutely. It's really good to have.
And what, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that actually going through the Trailblazers and combining the two is probably would be a good thing, because if you go through that step by step, if you have the time to do that, you'll have better questions when you come and actually have the live session with us. So you could combine them, the two. I think that, but they serve different purposes, but together I think they could be really good.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. And what was the Salesforce course that you mentioned at the beginning? I think you said it was like 5,000 or something. Is that something different that they offer?
Yeah, so Salesforce teaches a certified admin course where they've got a person at the front of the class who does
Okay.
essentially what we're doing. I can send you that link too. If that's something that's
Sure.
interesting to people, I can send that out too. And they do it in person at various places, and they also do it remotely, but it's, you're basically carving out 5 days to kind of put it together. So, and it's not like you do, one day and then take a couple of weeks off because you got a real job and come back in the second day. It's basically start on Monday, finish on, I think it's, Friday afternoon at 11 o'clock or whatever.
And it's geared towards then taking the test, the certified test, so that you become certified. So there's it's just a different animal than, there's no test other than to see that we've covered the stuff here. Theirs just really is if you've taken any of the Salesforce tests, it's a big deal. They're monitored. You have to do all that kind of stuff. But there's a real reason they do that, because certification means a lot. But
right.
Yeah.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
Hi, this is Mimi from the Center for Innovative GY Care. How are you guys?
Good. How are you?
Good. So, we are, for our company, we never really had a Salesforce admin person. I'm basically kind of taking over the task, because we, for us, marketing, we have a lot of different marketing campaigns that are running, and some of the patients filtered through those campaigns. So a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be needing is like how to run the reports, and so every now and then I may have to edit and change the pick list and stuff. So that kind of stuff will be covered through this course, right? If I
That's
need
right.
to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Especially the report stuff, because I know a lot of your stuff is around reporting. And you wouldn't have to sign up for all 5, right? If you just wanted to come for that one, that's a good class to we're going to show you how to build. And one of the things that we do, we're pretty lazy about reports. Once we build a good template, we'll sort of steal that and clone it forever. So we'll show you some of those tricks to sort of put it together. Yeah.
Okay.
Kate, I saw you had a question. I'm sorry. Or was that left over,
No,
the hand thing?
I think,
Okay.
yeah, that was left over. Thank you.
Cool. All right, cool. Well, we'll send this out as we start to put this together. Everybody on this list will make sure is included as we announce the first class. It probably won't be until either the last week of September or the first week in October. And we're still building some of the syllabuses as we work through this. But as we get our act together and start to do this, we wanted to just kind of tell everybody and kind of keep it in the back of your minds as we sort of work through this. I think it could be helpful. Again, it's not an alternative to being a certified admin, but for clients that don't, want to spend that time, attention, detail, we think it's a good alternative to kind of get you going. And maybe one of the answers is you take this, you learn how to do it, it becomes so cool that you go to get admin certified anyway. So it could be a win-win. All right, everybody. Well, 5 minutes early. I apologize that I went super fast through those screens, but I'll send the slide deck to everybody, and I've recorded the webinar so I can send it to you guys for the people who didn't make it, and we'll take it from there. I really appreciate it.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
coming.
very
everybody.
much. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.